How the world formed, where life started. Where does humanity come from and where will it go? Questions from these ancient times. It makes us confused. There's no answer. To find the answer, let's go back to the legend, the formation of the world of peoples. Almost all traditional and folk myths in the ancient world. It's all about the beginning and the formation of the earth. These stories are incredibly diverse and often reflect the general mentality of the nation. There's an important motif. They appear in all ancient cultures, from Mexico and Peru to Egypt and Sumeria. It's primordial water. The primitive characteristics are often overturned and irregular. They're described consistently between traditional cultures, ancient, and it's often folk. It's now called the cosmic ocean. Instead of organizing the motifs and highlight the surface similarities between them, let's search for common meaning behind the stories to understand the primordial and the formation of the world. In other words, as anthropologist Walter Evans Wynne has advised students to study mythology 1911 as follows. When studying religion or mythology, we should find the commonalities between them. It shows the basic connection to unify belief systems and spirituality. But what's more important is to try to understand why there's such a similarity. For example, the general principles behind them. Primal watering cultures appear in the myths about the formation of the ancient world. Primitive water, a state of chaos and loss of control. In many of these myths, the impacts that shape the world. It's similar to setting up. Give yourself to the chaos, or in other words, is to divide those disordered water materials into complete forms. Later, the Babylonians. There's a myth about the creation of the world. The Babylonians, there is Enuma Elish, that nothing exists from the beginning except Absu, and the primordial Tiamat of formless chaos, have both masculine and feminine personalities. The Egyptians call this domestic disorder. We have none. It's an incredibly easy state to come into. The first primitive mounds. The Hindu myth of the creation of the world. It also describes primitive sea. The god of defense Brahmaspati emerged from a primordial body of water and said, "We're born because this form needs support." But it's just the formless disorder of the ancient oceans. Great. In another story, Brahmaspati is born from a flowering lotus flower, floating on primeval water, traditionally Vaisnava, supreme god Narayan. It's called a man resting on water, has started a world creation cycle while dreaming of the ocean of primordial milk. Halfway around the world, indigenous Mixtec people in Mexico. It also describes the invisible formless state of liquid darkness when it was first formed, translated by Garcia in the Ojin of the Indians, as follows. Once upon a time there was chaos. The world is in darkness. Everything is odorless, and a covering of water that forms slimy sludge, and gradually then the land revealed itself. The stories that shape your world. Polynesia also refers to primitive water as the only original matter that came before. For example, it's an old story about the creator Terra, born from a celestial sphere, placed on primal water. From there began the formation of the world. The original gods, or other gods that often appear in sequence, that shows the tissue, nature, and truth. World formation period is divided into batches, sustained by a divine and creative mind. In the pyramid texts, Egyptian religious texts of the 8th dynasty. In Saqqara, the god Ra, that is, the sun god and the supreme god, has lowered the world into the water spirit, put order in place of chaos. For the Egyptians, Cho was synonymous with evil, concepts closely related to truth and justice. By conquering water, Ra established the supreme power of evil. The chaotic primordial waters, despite being defeated, stand in opposition to evil. Mythical story. This serves as a reminder to people about the constant threat of disorder. With the order that the pharaohs protected, primitive water in the creation myths. It usually appears double-sided. On the one hand, they represent a state of chaos. It's impossible to predict trends and cycles. On the other hand, they represent limitless potential. It's a tool for the creator of all things. In a 2014 article, in the Journal of Mediterranean Archaeology and Archaeology, the researcher Michael Ropp and Luck has described the two-sided nature of the water. Original state of the universe is as primal and non-degradable properties of water. It's the ability to create and regenerate the world. It also has the ability to destroy entities. Mantra to conquer primal water. In the myths related to the Swiss Ocean, mantras are considered divine tools. It is important to arrange water governance and start the process of creating the world. Perhaps the most familiar examples it's from the Bible and theology, Muslim. In the first book of the Old Testament, the biblical version of the primordial invisible and empty has written, God moved on the water to start creating the world. God said his first word, give the light, through which the process of establishing order and the water from the power that begins. Drill says that Allah has created every organism from water to create all things. Allah speaks to the earth and sky, ask them to work together, whether voluntary or not. In the story of the creation of the Babylonian world, cast a powerful spell, pure spell, to end the intense primal water of the pressure. By Mac and Favorite Mac, written in the Book of Life. The Day of the Egyptian Gods. The story of Egypt's creation myth has been preserved in a papyrus from ancient times at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The head god Thor used the power of the spell to do the world creation process as follows. I'm Thor, master of the divine word. We know what's hidden in the sky, inaccessible on earth, and hidden in the primordial ocean. I'm the creator of the sky. Humans originated from the mountains. We've created gods and humans to inhabit. More, the prayers of the Peruvian people have proclaimed. The creator recited the spell, or Niska, for the formation of the world. Be the earth and heaven, be day, be night. In the Study of Ocean Mythology 1916, American anthropologist Roland Dixon compared this story of Peru with Mbori creation legend. To inhabit large spaces in the dark, with water everywhere. There's no dawn, there's no clear light. And he began to speak. Let the darkness become a darkness that carries the light. And immediately the light came out. Ancient cultures around the world, they see the use of magic as a crucial mechanism for creating all things. We can't list out all the spells, but let's look at these mythical examples. That's enough for us to realize the creator always uses the power of the spell to set the order for primordial water. Further research, you'll see the creative power of the spell has gone into social practice and the traditional religions of the cultures, from magic songs or the words in the pyramid, to the curses and blessings of CA poetry. Celtic, this fact proves a tremendous belief that the spell can continue to change the physical world, as in the creation of the world. Why is water? As we have seen, primitive water representation of concepts relatively consistent among ancient cultures and play an important role. But in Sao, water is needed as raw material, water to create the world, the fundamental component of the universe. Theo Aristo's Metaphysics Thales, the Greek philosopher, we believe that the basic principle is water. You realize that by observation, the nutrients of every living thing are moist, as well as heat generated and maintained by moisture. In the same work above, Aristotle makes another interesting observation, attaching water to the formation of God and the creation of the world. Some people think that even the ancient ones and the first forms, the gods created, they all have the same nature. They invented Raucianus and Thetis, like the parents of the original gods, and describes the oath of the gods made of water. It's called Styx. The natural nature of water, that it's used in purification rituals, baptized, until the harmony with the sacred architecture. People think that many temples throughout the Near East built on natural springs. One of those streams now is still flowing out from the temples. These streams represent primordial water, while the temples above them, it's the order of the universe and it's the place of the gods. For example, the Roman historian Tacitus' description of the Temple of Jerusalem built on an unstoppable stream, while LCBS wrote that the temple contains a bountiful stream naturally from within it. The temple of the Mesopotamian god Asista, it's also built at the mouth of a natural stream. It shows the relationship between the goddess and the temple of Apollo at Didyma as well, built to surround the mouth of a stream, bringing extraordinary power to the temple. Another example comes from the temple architecture of India, where these special water reservoirs are called kalyani, maintained in the temple complexes to perform the rite of baptism before praying. Understanding of primitive as a motif in creation myths, it gives you a deeper look for every ancient culture and shared consciousness about the nature of the early world. It also provides a measure of understanding about architecture, and the custom comes from a reverence for primordial water and ask questions about the relationship between the culture and the spread of culture. Water is considered the source of life, and it's no surprise that in mythology, it's become the raw material used by creative owner at the time of world creation. These philosophies have the same meaning, even with cultures halfway across the globe. But the cause for the similarities, this coin is still the subject of controversy, since watching mythology comparison as a field and subject. Chapters 7 and 8 of the book of Genesis. Then the flood happened. It is God's punishment, because human morality is deteriorating. There was a time humans have developed a brilliant civilization, but their hearts become selfish and cruel, with evil schemes, waiting patiently for change for the better from humanity. In vain, God decided to destroy them with a flood, to destroy the earth. But there's still a good moral person left. That's Noah, God said to Noah. It's time to end the violence completely, and this evil. I will destroy all living beings. With them is the whole world. Like you, Noah? You must make a juniper ship. You will stop the ship from sailing, and then take the black oil inside and out, so that water can't get in. That ship has 3 floors, ground floor, second floor, and third floor, and it's got to be 14 feet tall, length 137 yards, width 23 yards. Noah listened to what God said to him, and it's amazing. He never built a boat, because he lives far from the coast and never needed it. I'm sure you never imagined. One day I will build a ship at such a large size. But God taught him how to close it. The ship will be built very well, with sturdy wooden frame. There's a channel top, so the water doesn't spill up the ship's and there's a window on one side of the ship, and a single big door to get in and out. When it's done, it's like a giant raft house. But for what? And then there's the answer. God says there will be a flood all over the earth. All living things under heaven will be destroyed. But to you, Noah, I made a promise. When you're done building the ship, go inside. You and your wife, your 3 sons and their families. I see you are good and I will save you. What about all living things except humans? Bring a pair of each species on board. Keep them alive with you. A pair of a male and a female. About all the birds in the sky and all kinds of animals are absolutely necessary like for sheep and cattle. You will bring 7 pairs of each species into the ship. Let them all reproduce again, full of quality on the ground when the flood waters recede, and gather all kinds of food. Put them on the ship to provide for you, for all the animals and all the cows. Stay with you on the ship. Right now has come. When God told him to get on the boat, he said, In 7 days I will make it rain on the ground. It will rain for 40 days and 40 nights. Let's bring the animals on board in pairs. And your family too. Any creature not on board. They will be wiped off the ground. Noah on board with his sons and wife. With the wives of his sons. One pair at a time. Birds and animals and insects. Male and female. Follow that person's family and get on board. Then Noah closed the door and waited. Then the flood suddenly appeared. It rained for 40 days and nights, and the water's been rising for 100 years and 7 days. Water filled the ground to cover the towering peaks of the mountains. All creatures are destroyed. And these aren't just legends. Excavations in the area of the Mesopotamian civilization detect many traces such as sediment sludge or fossils related to the Great Flood. Year 19 years 9. Lihan Durupina in the Turkish army accidentally discovered an object with an unusual shape while checking the aerial photos. He sent a photo to Dr. Brandenburger, Ohio State University, USA, after research and carefully analyzed the photos he sent. Then Dr. Brandenburger, the unusual shape is a ship. 1977 Ron Wyatt visited the site, discovered a strange object in LIAN's photo. Licensed by local government Ron Wyatt, the same number of others, thoroughly studied this area with a metal detector and underground radar scanners. The results are absolutely worth it with their minds. Take out and make a shock blow the period. Then, the object has been identified as an ancient ship. It's a very large ship from ancient times, on a mountain peak 2,000 meters above sea level. What's even more surprising is the analysis, proof, and comparison. The scientists suspect that's Noah's famous Ark. The 20th of June 1987 Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Interior of Archaeological Institutions and researchers from the University of Ataturk, in recognition of the discoveries of the Ran-Riyadh expedition, a ship-shaped object on a mountain at 2,000 meters, compared to sea level. It's the ancient ship. This area later became a national park and the treasures of Turkey. This can be considered one of the calendar findings, the greatest history and archaeology, that the great floods of the past are real. Along with it, the description of the Great Flood, recorded in the clay tablets of the Sumerians, the legend of the Mayans in Central America, the stories of the Muisca in Colombia, legends of Babylonian fairy tales and Indian epics. People synthesize. There are about 50 gods, tales and legends about the Great Flood. It's all very detailed, clearly coherent, and there's a common motif that, when humanity's morality plummets, then disaster will happen. Only good people survive. Geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman of Columbia University study of a Great Flood. About 7,000 years ago, archaeological evidence shows a layer of sediment between the layers of soil in a rock today. It's about 2,900 years ago. It's the trail of a Great Flood. 1900 to 2 English archaeologist Leonard Woodley started digging in the Mesopotamian desert SA. It's between the North and the Persian Gulf. The discovery of the site of the ancient kingdom of Sumer, and discovered the king's tomb in this city. Sumer is an ancient civilization in southern Mesopotamia, now in the Middle East. The Sumerian civilization appeared around 2900 BC. In the Iraqi desert SA, they found a lot of clay tablets. There are cuneiform inscriptions of the Sumerians, recording Mesopotamian myths and legends. It's the story of a great flood. It happened in ancient times. According to the CA school, Gigam is found on a stela of Assyria people. Civilization about 2500 BC. The story of Israel. It also describes the terrible pestilence that's raging. A great flood happened. The God who protects people is God. He taught Utanaftim how to escape. 6 days after the flood began, the waters receded. Utopia team releases a bird to try, but it can't fly. Then he released a swallow. There is no better result. Finally, a crow flew away. When released out, the steam Utopia is receding. he went out and sacrificed to the gods. The same story appeared in the Bible with the records of Noah. After 40 days and nights of rain, the flood happened in 100 years and 7 days. And when the flood waters start receding, Noah's Ark stuck in the Ararat Mountains. Noah opened the window and tried a rock crow to see if the water has drained. But this crow just dares to go back and forth. Next time Noah lets a pigeon fly out. But it couldn't find a parking spot and had to fly back. Noah let the pigeon out again. As he flew back to the pigeon, he followed a branch of Liu's umbrella. Noah waited 7 days and then released the dove. And this time it's not coming back. Noah left his mind behind. Open the boat door, go outside, and see the ground drying up. He thanked God and received God's grace. That's what amazes people. It's the same stories. Was found in Mesopotamia. Some have almost 5,000 years of history. It shows a common belief about the great flood that happened, and an unexpected similarity. The story of Noah's Ark, or Akahasis, or Fegu Tanavasti. Really? This story has been very widely spread over thousands of years in many literary and cinematic works. It is also referred to as the power of God through the character of Moses. Moses was a prophet leader, proclaiming the law according to the Catholic Bible. You are the one called by God. Lead the Jewish people out of slavery. Egyptian slaves according to the biblical record. Moses was the son of a Jewish woman. While Pharaoh, he gave orders to kill Jewish boys. Moses was adopted to become a member of the Egyptian royal family. After growing up, he was called by God to live in the land of the dead, free the Thai people from slavery. Across the Red Sea, he then went into the desert and returned to the Promised Land. In the journey, Moses borrowed the power of God to perform many miracles. And one of them is splitting Red Sea water in two. Let the people. It's possible to go through the bottom of the sea and reach the other shore. As soon as they landed, the Egyptian army had arrived, and then he stretched out his hand on the sea, closed the water wall to engulf the entire army. The magic thoughts. This mission only exists in the fictional world, but the strange thing is that oceanographers have found a lot of cars, horse bones, and human bones in the Red Sea. One of the many bones, mineralized, found at sea crossings, has been studying osteology at Stockholm University and proved that a man's right thigh bone, height from 1.65 meters to 1.70 meters. So there's a theory that says this is a sign of crossing the sea on the ancient trail. Or maybe it's the pharaonic army, drowned in the sea, chasing the Jews. In the light of science, Dr. Parker at the American Center for Oceanography. I'm also trying to explain this myth. He said that it's the special title regime, plus an understanding of geography, the astronomy of Moses. That's the key to a bold plan. Out. This story has been the subject of many historical films. The most famous of these is Cecil's 10 Commandments. DeMille in 1900. Exodus, Cast and Kings by Ridley Scott. Launched in year to number 14. They all mentioned this miracle. Scientific explanation. I played Scott in the movie Exodus, Cast and Kings, water separation which he exploited in a more scientific way, instead of seeing it as the power of God. As Scott explained, the ability to split the ocean is due to an earthquake. Led to a tsunami. And before the tsunami hit, coastal waters often retreat very far out, leaving the bottom of the sea dry before the storm hits. However, the above explanation presents a problem. Sprint time. It was about 10-15 minutes before the tsunami. Too little for the entire Jewish community can cross the shallow sea floor. Even more so, Moses could not have known. The earthquake and tsunami are coming, unless God tells him. Of course, the explanation is scientific. This magical medium is quite suitable for an epic movie, Exodus, Cast and Kings. But scientists have other explanations, based on nature. to be able to form a temporary pathway under the Red Sea. Accordingly, the key point, it's like seeing off Parker mentioned. It's the tide. It's a natural phenomenon that Moses calculated to coordinate with his bold plan. With this, he was completely able to predict when will the road appear. In fact, there are many places in the world where the tide can be lowest. To reveal a strip of land on the shallow sea floor, form a path in a few hours. And then when the tide's up, the road will quickly disappear. On 1709, Emperor of France Napoleon Bonaparte and a group of his soldiers rowed across the Gulf of Si, at the northern end of the Red Sea, divided into two branches by the Sinai Peninsula, forming two bays, Si in the west and Aqaba in the east. This is also the place where Moses, with the people across the Red Sea, here when the tide is low, a strip of shallow land about 1.6 exposed beneath the sea floor. But then the tide suddenly rises. Many of Napoleon's soldiers drowned. According to the book of Exodus of the Old Testament, the Jews camped twice before crossing the sea. The last time was on the west coast of Si Bay. Then Pharaoh's pursuers were nearly driven away. You can see clouds of dust caused by the chariot from a great distance. This is another important sign for Moses. He could calculate how long the army would take. Egypt will chase to the coast. More Moses. They live near wild places for a long time. So you know that we'll choose a spot on the coast for the caravan, maybe by the Red Sea, when the tide is low. You have knowledge of astronomy, observing the night sky, and by methods that date back to ancient times, you can predict the activity of the tides based on the position and circumference of the moon. The opposite, Pharaoh and his maidens lived along the Nile, connected to the Mediterranean, where the tide difference is very low. It's only a few millimeters of gas. The army of Pharaoh may know very little about tides. They don't know the danger they face. Guess when the tide is low? Strip of land below. When will it appear and how long will it last? As well as when it will disappear suddenly. Moses could have planned. Help the Jews escape. So he chose the full moon for the crossing. By that time, the time interval between the minimum maximum is the largest. And the caravan will have more time to cross. This is also the time of the tide, lower than normal. And the tide is also higher than normal, fit to engulf the Pharaoh's army. Determine the exact time. It's the key to a plan that works perfectly. Moses, to calculate the sow for the last Jewish people, just crossed the land at the bottom of the sea. The tide will rise immediately. Then, Chubing Egypt also chased closely behind the button and fall into the trap. If the cavalry, the army and chariots caught up before the tide rose, Moses will prepare some postponement tactics. On the contrary, if the pursuit comes after the tide rises, many have overcome the sea and Moses. Maybe send some of your people back to the bottom to lure the army into pursuit, to ensure the destruction of the opponent. However, in the Bible, there is mention of a specific effect. Another decision. It's the strong winds from the east blowing through the night and push the water sideways. Ocean physicists have said that the wind blows over the shallow currents. They usually carry more water than when water blows through the depths. So the strong wind randomly all night will bring the water down even lower, provide more opportunities for success. In Moses' plan, throughout the centuries, people believe that the appearance of this wind, the gods can intervene to help the people. It is not clear that Moses, do you know what the wind brings? But one thing's for sure, that he sees tidal forecasting as the determining factor. Napoleon and his soldiers nearly drowned. Hole 1700 matures 8 at the North Pole of the Gulf Depression. Water level at tide down to about 1.5 to 1.8 meters, or up to 2.7 to 3 meters if the wind blows in the right direction. However, according to the sea level in the time of Moses is higher than when loading Leem Lake across the sea. So the Gulf of Causeway will extend further north, and the tidal range is also larger. And if this is true, it's when the tide is high. The water can completely engulf the army, Egypt as recorded in the Bible. if all goes through the implementation of the plan. Moses is like these theories. He's a tidal forecaster, indeed. Great in history. It's not just a miracle of God. Did God create a strong wind to blow all night to make the plan better? But according to the evidence, most of the plan was laid out by Moses. It is based on his knowledge and experience. The whole story was written by Dr. Parker, written in the book, The Power of the Sea, Tsunami Storm Jerk, Toxic Waves and Our Quest to Predict Genius.